Welcome back once again. It is Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and take a look at some custom work that I have done. Now, if you've followed me for a while, you know that I am a big fan of the t shirt and jeans version of Connor Kent. Superboy, really a big fan of the more bad attitude chip on his shoulder that this version of Superboy has. Really enjoyed him in the Young Justice animated series. And there's just something about the way he was a little bit of a jerk sometimes that really speaks to me. So I have always been a fan of this certain iteration of Connor Kent. So, as you must assume, I was really anticipating McFarlane's take on this character. I do have all of the previous releases from DC Direct and the DC Signature series. And although those are not perfect, they are closer to what I imagine when I have this character in my mind. Although still a teen, an adolescent, he is still a little bit bulkier than your average teen character. So I did go through a couple of different phases, different ways I was going to attack this figure. Swapped out a lot of parts, did some kit bashing, some repainting, and even a little bit of decal work. So finally got him pretty much the way I imagined he should have been released, because if you see the original release, there was a lot to be desired. I mean, for me, this guy kind of looks like a broken up sack of potato chips. The way they executed the upper body and even the lower body, I just was not a big fan of. So, this is your original release, of course. At first, I did end up buying three of these, and the purpose of that was to display all the different heads. So you have your standard release, you have the platinum version, which I have up here, which I saw somebody on Instagram put the bare feet from the McFarlane figure on him, and they said that for some reason it just fit properly, and I have to agree. So I have my platinum version displayed with those bare nasty feet, but I still was not very happy or satisfied with the standard release. I mean, I just never even liked to pose it or even take figure photography with the rest of the Young Justice or the Teen Titans. I just didn't feel like it really encompassed what I imagine when I think of Connor Kent from Teen Titans. So I did take it into my own hands and did a little custom kit bash repaint here. So let's take a look at them. I'll tell you what I did. Not too much work, but it was a little bit of a process. So let's take a closer look at this guy. Now, I do prefer him with the angry head. I think it just fits his character a little bit more. So I tend to display him with the angry head. And I gotta say, once you get it all done, very fun to pose, very fun to do figure photography. Gives him a little bit of attitude just to have that beefier look. So I am very pleased with the final product. Looks really good. Now, I did change the skin tone of the neck and the heads because they were a little bit pale for my taste. So I went ahead and did a spray of matte flesh just to give him a little bit of a peachier color to his skin tone. So really happy with that. The neck was a little bit difficult because I knew I was going to have to paint the neckline of the t-shirt. Now, when I first decided to do this figure, I was going to use the John Kent body. Specifically, I was going to use Jim Gordon as Batman. I was going to remove the yellow bat and go ahead and try and paint the red Superman shield on the chest. But when I added it to the lower body, it was just too thin. I mean, it would have been just your basic teen body, really thin, and it left a lot of gapping around the waistline, which I was not happy with. So I had to get rid of that one and try something else. Now, what I ended up going with was the Booster Gold Body Book. And the main reason I came to this realization was because Nightwing, the Nightfall version, did use this same body book. And I said, if it's bulky enough for Nightwing, Dick Grayson, then it's definitely going to be bulky enough for Connor Kent. So I bought an extra of the more recent Booster Gold. So that was my base of where I was going to start this body. Now, what I really had to do was decide on the arms because, of course, this is a short sleeve character. I do go back to my original thoughts that they recently released the Simon Boz, and that is the same body mold. The only difference is they painted on all of the details, like if he has a t shirt on, and then that goes into the flesh tone of the arms. And that's what I expected them to do with this Connor Kent version of Superboy. And since they didn't do that, I was never quite sold on it. So I did use the upper torso and the abs, but one thing I couldn't decide on, and that was the arms, because even though I could have repainted it all and done it in skin tone with black, I actually kind of liked the arms that came with the Superboy. I just didn't like the upper torso. I mean, look at it. It's just not flattering at all. Basically has the muscle tone of a soy boy. And I just really imagine Connor Kent having a more muscular physique. But I did like the arms that came with the standard release. So I kept the arms, but I was decided on using the upper torso from the Booster Gold figure. And although it does give you a line that you can use to mark the t-shirt, I felt it was a little bit higher than I wanted. So I went ahead and made my own line. So as you can see, I painted right where the t-shirt is supposed to be. Then I did the neck in a skin tone color. Did have to seal that because I knew when I moved the head around, it was going to rub against the neck. So I wanted to protect it. Now, another thing I did is I did extend the neck peg. Now, the reason I did this is because in the standard release, you have very little head movement, the neck peg being too short, as well as the cavity inside the head porthole is too tight. So you get a lot of friction there. There's not a lot of range of motion in the head. So I decided to extend the neck peg and then bore out a little bit inside of the actual head, which gives it a ton of more range and movement, easier to get him in flight poses, easier to pose him, especially when doing figure photography. So that was a big help in giving him more head articulation. So I did repaint the face skin tone to match the neck, painted the whole torso in a matte black, as well as the shoulder bushing joints around the arms. And then I just added the arms from the original standard release. Now, I have to say, was very happy with the way the shape is now of this figure. That musculature really adds to how fun this figure is to pose. And and now he is definitely one that once I pick him up, I just cannot put him down. You can put him in angry poses. Um, I do have alternate heads for him because you have the standard head, but then I also have my custom heat crackle eyes version that I made by using one of the extra platinum heads and porting that onto one of the extra angry heads. Of course, you can swap out the hands with tons of alternate hands that I added from McFarlane into my big box of alternate hands. And that really finishes out the figure, giving them some alternate hand choices, the alternate heads, and the more muscular body really finishes off this figure. Now, I wasn't done because I did repaint the jeans, darkened it up, muddied it up a little bit to give it a little bit of a grimy look. There is a little crack here on the thigh that shows a little bit of flesh. So just for fun, I added that detail. And then you finally get down to the shoes. Now, was not a big fan of the shoes that come with the standard release. To me, those look more like some, I don't know, like Charleston dress shoes or something like that. And I was never happy with that. They are the same shoes that come with the McFarlane figure in the Spawn 2 pack. And when I think of Connor Kent, I think of him more either having boots or some kind of shoes with tread on them. Now, I'm not exactly sure whose shoes these came from. I just took them out of my lower body shoe fodder box that I had, but they do have tread, which is something that I was looking for, and they give them a more boot look. Although the jeans still go over the top of it, but that but that to me was kind of the chef's kiss, the last added detail that I wanted to complete my custom Connor Kent. Now, as I said, the more muscular physique really finishes him off. Had tons of fun doing figure photography. He is definitely upgraded because now when I pick him up and start posing him, it's really hard to put him down. And the standard release just did not have that same effect. You could put him up against different enemies. I had some fun putting him up against Superboy Prime, which is something from the comics. And I cannot wait to start adding him to my Teen Titans slash Young Justice lineup and doing some figure photography as well. Now, the last little detail I will give you the secret on because I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering how I did it. Since I did not use the original upper torso, which had the red Superman shield on it, I had to figure out a way to replicate it onto this repainted upper torso. And after a lot of thinking, painting is very hard to do in this manner. No matter if you have a good hand, it's just not going to look right. So, what I did end up doing was buying a strip of Superman emblems that are water slide decals, which are basically stickers, but they are very tricky to put on. You have to have some sort of experience. If you do not, it's very hard and you could easily ruin the sticker. But since I'm not too familiar with this, I was kind of, I did have a little bit of cold feet when I started doing it, but it ended up coming out pretty well. Very tight, clean look, which is what I wanted. And you just add the decal to the chest and it really finishes off the figure. Now, another tip I will give you is if you do order these emblems online, you do want to make sure that the sizes are for the size of a figure that you want to use because a lot of time these decals are made for very small figures. So you do want to make sure that they will fit on your 6 and 7 inch scale DC action figures. So, anyways, guys, this is my custom Connor Kent. Anything I forgot, any questions, go ahead and add them below down in the underground. Made more in the style of what I really expect when I have a Connor Kent Superboy action figure in the t-shirt and jeans, basically dressing like me when I roam around the streets of my hometown. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.